Queer News and Journalism is a Gay 45 original podcast published every week on Thursdays, where we come together to comment the topics in the weekly queer news published by our newsletter, The Nine. Subscribe on gay45.com to get the latest news every week. Welcome back, you curious deep diver. We've returned from a busy summer, and we're jumping straight into, well, a truly global snapshot of LGBTQ plus life. Today, we've got a fantastic stack of Gay 45s exploring everything from corporate decisions to personal tragedies and even some surprising political donations.
It really is a fascinating mix, and it really highlights the triumphs, but also the ongoing struggles and just the complexities within queer communities worldwide. Our mission today is to unpack these diverse events, connect the dots for you, and try to understand what they mean for the broader picture. Get ready for some major aha moments, I think.
Okay, let's unpack this first one then. We're seeing some interesting shifts in how corporations engage with the LGBTQ plus community, and not always in a positive light. First up, there's this situation in Austria involving the Erste Group. This bank, it removed a scene featuring Budapest Pride from a new commercial for its Hungarian subsidiary. Right. The original advert promoting this #BelieveYourNear slogan, it used AI-generated historical events and included this year's Budapest Pride, which, drew like 200,000 people.
Yeah, defying the government ban, too.
Exactly. And pro-government media in Hungary immediately called it a scandal.
Right. And what's fascinating here, or maybe revealing, is Erste Bank Hungary's reasoning. They claimed the segment does not have the same significance for all Hungarians and suggested other historical events should be highlighted instead. The original video was briefly on YouTube, but then poof, deleted. You can actually read a great op-ed on this in GAY 45, which really digs into it. It raises a big question, doesn't it, about corporate inclusion versus, well, the bottom line, profit.
It really does. And speaking of shifting support, let's talk about Copenhagen Pride. Because, wow, this year they ended up with a deficit of nearly 1.7 million kroner. There's like 228,000 kroner.
That's huge.
It is. Sponsorship and ticket revenue just plummeted. Major companies like Maersk, Google, Novo Nordisk, they withdrew support. So they only got 4.4 million kroner in sponsorship against a budgeted 8.5 million. That's almost half.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, you see the decline followed Pride's decision back in February 2024. Remember, they asked sponsors to disclose their interests and activities in Israel and Palestine?
Right, that was quite controversial.
It was, and the fallout was, well, pretty immediate. Audience income also fell short. Attendance dropped to around 15,000, down from 35,000 the year before.
Wow, 35 down to 15.
Yeah. And this situation in Copenhagen, Denmark, it kind of reflects a wider trend, a decline in participation at Prides across the EU. A lot of people questioning their purpose in this complex political climate.
It really puts these organizations in a tough spot, doesn't it? Balancing political stances with financial reality and community participation.
Absolutely. A real tightrope walk.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even more concerning. We're looking at publications aimed specifically at LGBTQ plus and minority audiences. And they're facing a sharp decline in advertising support. Ted Warner, he's the CEO of Gay Times, told The Guardian his outlet lost 80% of its advertisers in just the past year.
80%?
80. That amounts to over £5 million in expected revenue. Gone. He blamed anti-diversity drives, saying, quite powerfully, discrimination doesn't have to make business sense. Discrimination is discrimination.
Wow, that really drives the point home. And it raises that crucial question, what does this pattern of corporate withdrawal and advertising decline tell us about the nature of corporate allyship? Is it genuinely about values, or is it more, about market sentiment and just avoiding political backlash?
Seems like the latter in many cases.
It certainly appears that the gold rush to support inclusive media is, as Nafisa Bakar of Amalia put it, well and truly over. It feels like a shift.
That's a sobering thought for queer media. Okay, let's move from the corporate world to courtrooms and communities. We're seeing some intense legal and societal pressures mounting. In the USA, the Supreme Court is officially being asked to overturn its landmark 2015 ruling, Obergefell v. Hodges, the one guaranteeing marriage rights for same-sex couples.
Kim Davis again?
Yep, Kim Davis. The former Kentucky County clerk who was jailed for refusing to issue same-sex marriage licenses. She's petitioned the court. She's appealing a $100,000 damages award and another $260,000 in legal fees, arguing First Amendment protection.
Right. And her lawyers are explicitly contending the decision was egregiously wrong, just like they argued about Roe v. Wade.
The comparison is stark.
It is. Now, legal experts mostly say the appeal is unlikely to succeed, but And this is the important bit. The fact that a court with a 6-3 conservative majority is even considering taking the case this autumn, with arguments maybe in 2026, that's significant in itself. It just highlights the ongoing legal vulnerabilities, even for established rights.
So even the possibility sends a chill, right? It signals that these fights aren't over.
Exactly. It keeps the door open, psychologically and legally, for challenges.
And sadly, across the globe, the situation can be even more immediately dire. Let's look at Argentina.
Yeah, this is worrying.
The LGBTQ plus community there is dealing with a 70% surge in anti-LGBTQ plus attacks, over 100 reported in just the first 7 months of 2025. And this spike follows homophobic remarks by President Javier Milei back in January, where he actually linked homosexuality with pedophilia at the World Economic Forum.
Disgusting. And we're seeing the direct, tangible consequences of that kind of rhetoric from the top. For example, there was a 24-year-old model, Juan Sabin, assaulted outside a gay club in Buenos Aires, suffered a fractured jaw. And days later, homophobic graffiti and even arson damaged homes. As Leandro Kahn from Fundación Huésped noted, and it's so true, hate speech circulating nonstop, often from the top of political power, has consequences.
It absolutely does. Words have power, and in this case, devastating power.
Yeah, it shows how quickly that kind of language can embolden violence and just create a climate of fear.
And the news gets heavier still. In Nigeria, 2 students, Hamza Idris Tafawa and Umar Yusuf Dungarawa, were killed, and 2 others injured in what's suspected to be a homophobic attack at a boarding school in Kano State. 11 suspects have been arrested.
That's tragic, and this underscores the immense, deadly risks LGBTQ plus people face in Nigeria. Same-sex relations can mean 14 years in prison.
Or worse in some areas.
Or even the death penalty in some Sharia law states. Activist Bandi Kiki put it perfectly. This tragedy is a direct result of a system that dehumanizes LGBTQ plus people.
It's heartbreaking.
It's a stark, stark reminder of the urgent need for legal reform and just basic human rights protections.
Absolutely. And another deeply heartbreaking story comes from Myanmar. 2 transgender women, Ma Yi-san, just 23, and Ma Kan-mo-than, 22. They died by apparent suicide after jumping from a bridge.
Oh, no.
Local media reported that they faced rejection from their families and criticism from their community, all because of their relationship.
God, that's awful. And what's just devastating here is that intersection, the societal stigma, the family rejection, and the laws. Section 377 of the Penal Code still criminalizes same-sex relations, punishable by imprisonment. LGBTQ plus groups there are reporting rising suicide rates among sexual and gender minorities. It just paints such a grim picture of the toll these pressures take.
It's unbearable pressure.
Yeah.
Family, community, the law, all against you.
It highlights how crucial acceptance and support systems are, and how deadly their absence can be.
It really does. These stories are incredibly tough, but important to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Amidst these challenges, though, there are still these vibrant expressions of community alongside, well, some truly surprising individual choices.
Right, resilience is key.
Let's celebrate Folsom, Europe for a moment. Over 20,000 people gathered in central Berlin for this fetish festival, a celebration of leather, fetish, kink, subcultures. Streets were closed, people in amazing outfits, just mingling. And the event promotes diversity, sexual freedom, community solidarity, with proceeds supporting HIV prevention and LGBTQ plus projects. And importantly, no major incidents reported. Sounds incredible, doesn't it?
It really does, and it's such a powerful counterpoint to the struggles we were just discussing. It shows the resilience, the vibrancy of queer subcultures.
Yeah, the joy is important too.
Absolutely. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it exists within a world of complex individual choices too. Which brings us to something unexpected.
Okay, yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting, or maybe confounding for some of you listening. Gloria Gaynor.
I Will Survive.
The voice of I Will Survive, the ultimate gay anthem, right? She has donated almost $22,000 to Republican politicians and groups over the past 2 years, including people like House Speaker Mike Johnson, Senators Ted Cruz, Marsha Blackburn, Josh Hawley.
Those are some very anti-LGBTQ plus records right there.
Exactly. And she was even selected by President Donald Trump as a Kennedy Center honoree.
Okay. This definitely raises an important question, doesn't it? About the intersection of personal beliefs, public image, and, well, political giving. It's a really clear example that personal choices don't always align with the assumed politics of an artist's most famous work or their audience.
It's jarring for many, I imagine.
Yeah. It shows the LGBTQ plus community isn't a monolith. Individuals hold diverse, sometimes really contradictory beliefs, challenges those assumptions.
It certainly does. Okay, and finally, let's touch on a protest in Berlin, Germany. An Irish non-binary activist, Kitty O'Brien, was reportedly injured.
What
An
happened?
officer allegedly punched them in the face during a pro-Palestinian rally. Video circulated, local media reported broken arm, though that's apparently unverified. Police are investigating the officer for bodily harm, but O'Brien is also under investigation.
Right, and what's fascinating, or perhaps disturbing, here is how these global political conflicts intersect with local policing and the specific experiences of LGBTQ plus individuals, especially non-binary activists. It highlights layers of vulnerability, doesn't it? And the complexities of activism, even in cities we think of as progressive, like Berlin.
So multiple layers of potential discrimination or scrutiny depending on who you are and what you're protesting.
Exactly. Intersectionality in action, highlighting different risks, even within the same movement.
Okay, wow. That's a lot to process. Let's wrap up our deep dive with some incredible recommendations and insights from our Gay 45 that really bring these themes home.
Yeah, let's lighten it up slightly with some culture.
First two must-read Gay 45s. There's an excellent op-ed on that Austria corporate attitude to inclusion and profit ties, right back to our first segment.
Perfect follow-up.
And also a radiography, a deep look at the work conflict happening at the biggest corporate name in the gay business, Grindr.
Ooh, that sounds juicy. Both sound like really important reads to get deeper into those corporate complexities we touched on.
Definitely. Now, our quote of the week is from Ash Sarkar. And it really hit me, especially after our conversation today.
Let's hear it.
To be recognized is to be told that you matter, that your life has worth, and that you have a place in the world. There's nothing unhealthy about that. But our media and politics leverage the psychological wages of attention in a way that is utterly corrosive and warping.
Wow, that is powerful. It captures that exact tension, doesn't it? The fundamental need for recognition versus how that need can be twisted and exploited by media and politics.
Exactly. It feels like it underpins so many of the stories we discussed.
Very resonant.
For Film of the Week, we've got Plainclothes, coming in 2025. It's described as an unforgettable thriller, directed by Carmen Emmy, starring Tom Blythe and Russell Tovey.
Great cast.
Yeah. And it apparently captures the suffocating fear of being watched, judged, exposed. Specifically in the pre-Grindr era. The director wants us to feel that suffocation, making us want to shout, "It gets better."
Oh, that sounds intense but important. Kind of connects to the historical context of why spaces like Grindr emerged, but also the dangers that existed before and sometimes still do.
Exactly. Sounds like a really moving story told with sensitivity.
Definitely one to look out for.
Okay, book of the week is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab.
Ooh, V.E. Schwab.
Yeah. It's described as an opulent sapphic vampire tale following three women across 3 centuries. A story of hunger, feminism, ferociousness. A vampire novel unlike any other. Monsters who will dazzle and horrify.
That sounds amazing. Schwab is brilliant, and blending sapphic romance with horror and historical fantasy. Yes, please. It's great seeing that kind of queer genre fiction getting highlighted.
Totally. Sounds like a fantastic dark escape.
Adds it to the list.
And our music of the week comes from BUSH, the album I Beat Loneliness. Frontman Gavin Rossdale apparently confronts emotional vulnerability and mental health with real, raw honesty. Tracks like Scars are called anthems of survival, transforming pain into connection. Sounds like a cathartic listen.
That feels really relevant, too. That idea of transforming pain, finding connection through vulnerability, it echoes the resilience we talked about. Music's so powerful for that.
Yeah, finding anthems in unexpected places sometimes.
Right.
And finally, just some fun things from our favorite newspapers shared in the Gay 45 newsletter. Cook. Use the best tomatoes you can find for this pasta al pomodoro. Simple, but good advice.
Can't go wrong with good tomatoes.
Watch. Our movie critic calls My Undesirable Friends, a documentary about Russia's press under siege, one of the year's most towering achievements. Sounds heavy, but important.
Wow, yeah. Relevant.
Move. We asked physical therapists and other experts to correct some big myths about running. Always useful.
I probably believe some of those myths.
And? Play. The Usual Suspects, Spelling Bee, Mini Crossword, and Wordle. You can find links to all their puzzles in the newsletter.
Gotta get that Wordle streak going.
Okay, that brings us almost to the end.
So thinking about everything we've covered, the corporate shifts, the legal battles, those heartbreaking tragedies, but also the community joy like Folsom, the surprising donations, the cultural moments, here's a thought for you to chew on. What does this deep dive, this whole complex tapestry, tell you about the true nature of progress for LGBTQ plus communities right now? In this world that feels so fast-moving and often, frankly, contradictory. And maybe more personally, how do we hold space for both that necessary vigilance, that awareness of the threats, and also the joy, the celebration, the resilience? How do we hold both at the same time?
That's a deep question to leave everyone with, a really important one. You can also listen to any of our articles. Visit gay45.com to read more quality journalism.